I recently shared as a mini documentary on the Space Force, like very mainstream stuff, right? And some of the things I pointed out were that, as they're going through how we arrived at the creation of the Space Force, they keep mentioning attempts to get back into space, the United States making attempts, or, factions of the government and the military trying to, and it just not happening. It's just fizzling over and over and over again, and that to me was, people not in the know trying to create space programs or access to space and being denied by the existing space programs. So one of the things that I think sort of fooled a lot of people was the way Trump presented it as like an off the cuff idea, which was actually really brilliant. So the way that he sort of delivered it in a speech, like it was a fleeting idea that he had, was extremely tactical. It presented it in a specific way that forced it to be managed by the deep state, I think in a way that has ended up playing to his advantage. Like he's very interesting in the sort of psychological warfare techniques that he uses. And in that same documentary, they mention how it really can't have been an off-the-cuff thing that he was talking about, because there has been so many efforts over the years since NASA, stopped going to the moon on a regular basis and all these things. There's been so many efforts over the years that have been stopped. So Trump saying that was actually a nod to all these people in the government and the military who are not in the know, who have been trying to get access to space again. This was a nod to them. And I think one of the major things that he did that is indicative of the history of the secret space program was that he initially did not want the intelligence agencies to be a part of Space Force. There was this, and when you look at the history of intelligence agencies being infiltrated by the Fourth Reich, that came out of World War II, and the extent to which the CIA and then eventually the NSA and the FBI became infiltrated, it's very obvious why Trump was keeping them out of the development of the Space Force. Because quite frankly, they're all already in space, and they're looking to curtail any efforts at the three major things that I've personally identified in my research, which is revolutionary technology, access to space, and non-terrestrial relations. And those three things, they keep a very, very closed lid on. They're very careful about those things. So I think personally, I'm always watching out for anything in those three areas. In terms of full disclosure, I think those are the three pillars that have sort of sustained secret space program suppression. As long as they've suppressed those things, the revolutionary tech, the non-terrestrial relations, and the access to space. So, watching Space Force unfold and watching all this happen, we can only know so much because a lot of it has to be covert in the way that they have to develop it, but pretty fascinating stuff.
Now, I know exactly what people I would pick in this list, but I'm going to ask you. So if you were trying to explain the secret space programs to somebody and you wanted to give them somewhere to begin their research, where would you send them to? What whistleblowers, what site would you send them to?
Well, I'll say initially that I try not to develop preconceived formulas for moments of disclosure or moments of activism, because I have found that it takes me out of being present with whoever I'm communicating with. So my technique is to let my deep presence, for me to become silent enough that whoever I'm dealing with shows me where they're open. So instead of developing like a formula for where I'm going to send people, what I do is try to feel out exactly who I'm with, whether that's a person or a group, and really respond to where they're at and honor exactly where they're at in their path in terms of the secret space program for this particular example. So I recently had this experience because I've started to red pill some of like my old high school friends and family who really were not aware of my involvement in any of this. And so one of these old friends approached me in a bar, and he was seriously concerned for me. He was worried that I was having mental health issues based on what I was posting.
Been there. I've been there.
Yeah, I mean, this is common. It's common, right? But so what my response to him ended up being, how can we properly discuss something if we both haven't looked at some of the same sources? So my invitation to him was, if you want to discuss this topic, then let's agree to look at some of the same things, and then let's go over them together, right?
I
But
love that.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
it's super important, you know, like proper discussions. You're never going to convince anyone of the secret space program in the first go. I mean, it's just not, it's not going to happen, and it shouldn't, because this is a highly complex subject. This is something that requires intense research, and there's a lot of evidence. But in terms of proof, that's a difficult thing to come by, because proof is very tricky in comparison to evidence, right? If you're looking at like something in a court trial, you know, they have to weave together all different types of evidence for it to become proof, which is then allowed to be treated as such. So, you know, I try to look at it that way, that if I can create common ground in terms of a resource, then it's a place to discuss. But if someone has not looked into any of this, then my first goal is to support them in taking an initial glimpse. So rather than trying to bring them into any kind of belief in what I'm talking about, it's more like a gentle guidance at looking into it. So like one really good thing lately is the Harvard study that came out, basically saying that extraterrestrials, you know, benevolent extraterrestrials would make contact most likely with individuals in a way that seems magical. And they would do it, you know, all throughout the planet to individuals. And that actually makes more sense than mass contact, which is funny, right? I mean, this is Harvard saying what every whistleblower and contactee has been saying since like the 1950s.
Exactly. I was just going to say that's exactly what they've been doing for a long time.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
What we've been saying.
Yeah.
So, you know, things like that, I think, are a good leeway into it. And I would say that one of the key things, if you're with people, if you're dealing with individuals, is quiet yourself so you can find where that person is at and let them show you what they need so that you can be of service to them properly rather than having a preconceived agenda.